we're suspending open and concealed carry. I think it's time to talk about the absoluteness of the discussion on the current court actions that suggest that the Second Amendment is an absolute right and none of the others are. No constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute.
New Mexico Democratic governor being called out for her crackdown on the Second Amendment, including by some in her own party and some of the most liberal members of her party. The governor announcing a 30-day ban on concealed carry firearms for self-defense. She claims it is a necessary response to gun violence after declaring it a public health emergency. Gun rights advocates say it puts the community in danger.
All I want to do is protect my family, my friends, and my community. But the governor wants to take that right away. Everyone here, I see no criminals. I see law-abiding citizens.
But the executive in this state does not have the ability to willfully violate your rights. So use your ability to sue her. Everyone here should sue her. Let's arm ourselves in one of the most dangerous things. I mean, we're out here, we have to defend ourselves, right? We don't have private security for,
Two state lawmakers immediately called for the governor's impeachment, and Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu says the move is unconstitutional. Even gun control activist David Hogg is pushing back, saying, quote, there is no such thing as a state public health emergency except to the U.S. Constitution. And yet she persists. Harold, she was on the short list of Biden's to be VP in 2020. I'm sure the Dem base will love this. Is she making a play?
I don't know what she's done, but I'll tell you this. I'm a little contrarian on this about her. I think it's unconstitutional what she's suggesting and likely would be challenged in court, obviously, and likely struck down. I like when politicians are big and creative. Sometimes I'm going to disagree with them. People disagree with Abbott for sending the migrants to these cities. That's gotten us to a point of where we are talking about the things that we're talking about now when it comes to the border. When Trump talked about possibly attacking the cartels in Mexico or in South America, people said, look, you can't do that, but it's making us think, and perhaps we should be thinking more creatively or sending the military to the border. We have a public health crisis in this country with guns. That doesn't mean that I'm not a Second Amendment guy, but the reality is when you see kids being shot in schools and the kind of gang warfare we see in our cities, we've got to begin to think bigger and more creatively. This won't pass constitutional muster, but it's going to make us think long and hard about perhaps some of the other things, some of the additional measures, constitutional measures we can take to try to reduce violence in our communities across the country. So I don't think they're going to go very far with this, Governor, but I give you salute for thinking big and being bold.
Well, except that if it is unconstitutional, then what's the point? That they declare emergencies for more government control, Jesse, and then when they say it helps their base get excited about it, and then the base finds out it's not constitutional, and then they get mad, like student loans.
Well, even the base knows it's nuts. When David Hogg says something's nuts, it's really nuts. If the Republicans were smart, we're not saying they are, but if they were, they would win the next election just on this alone. Seize on this and capitalize on it. Kamala Harris officiated this woman's wedding. She was the head of the Democrat Governors Association, chair of the Hispanic caucus. She's been in the House. This is no nobody fringe wackadoodle. This is a legit Democrat, a national Democrat. So to go out there and say that and then just pretend like it doesn't happen, you make the Democratic Party own this. This is the farthest the Democratic Party has ever reached on guns. This goes farther than any. This goes farther than the assault weapons ban, than anything. And I did a deep dive into this woman. Didn't want to, but I had to. She has no ethics. You know what she did? She settled a case for about 80 grand. She poured a bottle of water on a staffer's crotch and then slapped him in his crotch in front of a bunch of people. Settled. Then she raided some emergency fund in her office and bought Wagyu steaks with it. Bought booze, thousands of dollars. And then took these foreign junkets that were financed by some sleazy autocrat. This woman has no ethics at all.
Does she have her phone number?
And also, there were some COVID hijinks, too.
Oh, she's got hijinks out the wazoo, Dana. And the fact is, she doesn't care about the Constitution. And she's admitting she doesn't care. And that's why you have to pin that tail on the donkey.
Okay, literally. That's very good, Jesse. Hey, if the Democrats think this is reasonable, then that means that somebody like Governor Ron DeSantis could declare an emergency in just change the laws of the nation.
I've had enough of people declaring emergencies in order to take control of our lives. I know that mass shootings are bad, but if we're going to do the numbers, then let's do the numbers, okay? It's exceedingly rare compared to car fatalities. Why don't we declare emergencies on that? We can declare emergencies on anything. It's part of a bigger problem that we're seeing unfold. Permission to go Alex Jones.
I'm going to decline.
Okay, this 30-day suspension of a constitutional right is meant to be a trial balloon, right?
Yep.
A test for something that may happen in the next year in the run-up to the election, saying that the Second Amendment is not absolute, and then having a few gun control fanatics go, oh, hold on. That's theater. You got Trump. I feel like he's going to go to jail. You're seeing parents being cleaved from their kids with this bill in California. Free speech. It's not just the Second Amendment. You got the First Amendment. There's a number of examples of free speech being flexible, right? You know, you can lose your medical license, you know, if you decide to say something different about COVID. We now know that the government did try to suppress information, First Amendment, so that people wouldn't speak out against what they believe to be right. You have these retail theft laws, you know, the $900 ceiling. That's another trial balloon for the end of private property in my conspiratorial theater. You can see these all kind of go together. You're seeing an attack on speech. You're seeing an attack on personal protection. If you get mugged, I mean, look at the guy in the subway who tried to save people's lives. If you look at theft and private property, I have a feeling that the timing is strange here, and it might get very weird. I think this next election will make the other two, I don't know, look like a game of pickleball among friends. I mean, why would you suspend the Second Amendment? So, and this is where I become Alex Jones, so militarized action will succeed without friction. Stage an event, call a clampdown, disarm the public.
Very good.
Thank you.
Judge, does it drive you crazy that people who are in positions where they swear to uphold the Constitution come up with things like this? Because when you were a judge, I'm sure you would have liked to have been able to say, this is what Judge Janine would do, but you had to follow the law.
Well, yeah, you know, I don't know what's more shocking, this woman's ignorance or her arrogance. And both come into play here. She is ignorant of the law in a country where she is the chief executive of the state. She is ignorant of her oath, which requires that she uphold the Constitution. She is ignorant of the Supreme Court decisions that are fundamental to the Second Amendment. The first being, what are we talking about? Bruin, the New York case, just said within the last 2 years that New Yorkers have the right to carry a firearm outside of their home when some nut governor like Cuomo tried to say you can't bring him out of your home. Then Heller against D.C., they said, the Supreme Court said, it's not just for militia. You could use a gun for self-defense. And then McDonnell against the city of Chicago. 14th Amendment applies to an individual in the state to carry a gun. Look, this is fundamental law in the United States. And the Democrats, from your example, which was perfect, we're going to use an executive order. We're going to get rid of all of the student loan debt. You people are not dictators. I mean, you are dictators, but you don't have the authority to do this. One of the things that she says she's trying to do is stop crime. Well, what are you doing about stopping crime? How about you make some arrests? How about you get rid of this cashless bail law? How about we make sure we put more money into the police department? How about we close more cases? And by the way, you say that the genesis of this is 3 kids who got shot. Have there been people arrested in those cases? Now you want to take the legal gun owner? And I want to end it with this one thing which really blew me away. She's now got some kind of state regulators who are going to take stats. And those stats are going to be on every crime with a gun. The type of gun, the brand, the caliber of the gun. So then she's going to come out with a report and say, this gun is 9mm, 6 hour, whatever it might be, is a gun that's responsible for more murders than any other gun. Again, taking away the individual responsibility. But nowhere in her stats is the assessment of whether the gun is legal or illegal. And I would recommend, Governor, that you throw that in there, because I'll bet most of these murders are happening with illegal guns. Stop trying to take them away from legal gun owners.
She has opened up Pandora's box.
This will be one of our Thanksgiving dinner conversations.
Can't wait. All right, police.